state, government is expected through policies, programs and laws to create an enabling environment where Guyanese can realize their true potential in various sectors. In their economic pursuits, the Green State teaches reliance on techniques that reduce or eradicate harmful effects on the environment and the people. This Green State will offer green and decent jobs, economic opportunities, individual equality, justice and political empowerment. On this episode of Government in Action, we focus on how government intends to bring its vision to life through the involvement of all stakeholders and how Guyanese can get involved, ensuring that Guyana truly sets an example of how human and social development can be sustained. In November 2016, coming off of President Granger's attendance at the joint high-level segment of the 22nd Conference of Parties in Marrakesh, Kingdom of Morocco, Guyana secured an engagement with the United Nations Environment Programme to develop a framework for the Green State Development Strategy. The framework of the Guyana Green State Development Strategy and financing mechanisms was finalized and made public in April this year, and is intended to lay out the elements to be examined and consulted on during the course of the development of the strategy, a process which began in April and is expected to last until December this year. The strategy will place emphasis on the balance between the three dimensions of sustainable development: economic, social, and environmental, to ensure comprehensive implementation. It will see the enhancement of social cohesion and inclusion, improving quality of life for all Guyanese, promoting sustainable lifestyles and protection of the environment, the sustainable use of biodiversity and increased resource efficiency, aiming for a transition to a 100% renewable country by 2025, redirecting and mobilizing investments, ensuring transparency, sharing services and decision-making to the population, engaging civil society, and creating a space for citizen participation. President David Granger has said that an important feature of Guyana's green pathway to development is ensuring that there is a wide cross-section of stakeholder input to ensure a people-centered approach to the country's transformation. It is with this aim that the President on May 3 reactivated the Green Multi-Stakeholder Steering Committee, which will seek to allow for stakeholder input in the governing mechanism of both the Low-Carbon Development Strategy and the Green State Development Strategy. The committee includes stakeholders from government agencies and ministries, including the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission, the Guyana Forestry Commission, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Business, Amerindian Peoples Association, the Amerindian Action Movement, the Opposition, the Department of Environment, Office of Climate Change, Project Management Office, and several other government and non-governmental organizations. The committee was first established in 2009 through an agreement with Guyana and Norway, and was aimed at establishing a model of environmental governance, but had not met since 2015.
This committee is, or ought to be, 8 years old, and we need to do much more to make sure that it functions more frequently, it meets more frequently to fulfill its initial objective. The MSSC then was intended to ensure that the Low Carbon Development Strategy, LCDS, with which we are all familiar, including the REDD plus reduced emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, were undergirded by both inclusivity and transparency. Guyana, by reconvening the MSSC, is expanding its mandate to allow it to serve as part of the inclusionary governance architecture of the evolving Green State.
The President highlighted the value of the LCDS, particularly with regard to identifying how countries can be rewarded for providing climate mitigating services. However, the President said that the transition toward becoming a green state goes beyond the LCDS. This involves a holistic transformation which aims at human development, poverty eradication, reducing inequality, increasing employment, promoting sustainable livelihoods, and building economic and environmental resilience. As a result, the President said that this approach requires sustained consultation and inclusivity, which is where the committee comes in.
No one, not the government alone, no non-governmental organization on its own, no international institution on its own can claim to have a monopoly of knowledge. We must come together. Stakeholders in a forum like this represent an important repository of accumulated experience and expertise. Guyana's consultative and inclusive approach will allow for a wider expression of the Green Development Strategy.
Head of the Department of the Environment, Ms. Ndebi Schweers, said that the committee serves as an important platform for national engagement and a mechanism for the monitoring and evaluation of the Green State development projects. While stakeholder participation is important, the work of the agencies dealing with the environment must also correlate with each other in order to have a unified approach on the path toward becoming a green state. Following the Green Multi-Stakeholder Steering Committee, the President held a meeting with the board members of the environmental agencies, which fall under the aegis of the Department of the Environment, where he reminded them that a collaborative approach is needed to protect and preserve the nation's patrimony. The President said that frequent communication among these agencies is important to ensure that their work is complementary and cooperative.
Unfortunately, the way some of the agencies and boards grew up, they did not need to develop the habit of collaborating with other agencies and boards. I'm not saying that this was deliberate. I'm just saying that that is an accident of history. But now we deliberately have to work towards getting out of our silos and speaking with each other. And I regard this conference this morning as an attempt to reach beyond our specific mandates and to develop a more multi-agency approach, a multi-year approach, because what you're doing is not only for this year or next year. It is something that will have an imprint on the rest of Guyanese history.
Moreover, the President said that the Department of the Environment, which was established in October 2016, will help to ensure that a collaborative approach is maintained, but stated that it is also important that the flagship agencies are led by Guyanese and that the country must develop the expertise to manage the environment in the best interest of its citizens. At that meeting, board members expressed their agreement with the President's vision and stated their intention to heed the head of state's call to work together. Chairperson of the Protected Areas Commission, Dr. Raquel Thomas, said that the management of protected areas is an important component of any green state.
And I think for this, the green state economy to work, all have to be involved. We need a very stringent public awareness. People might hear of terms, but often sometimes they don't understand exactly what they mean, and that's why it's very important to have people involved. The whole concept of conservation and sustainable use is about people. Areas will protect themselves if people were not involved. So it really is about working around people, working with people, and have people involved in the process of management.
Chairperson of the recently formed Wildlife and Conservation Commission, Ms. Karen Pilgrim, said that the protection of the country's wildlife is an important aspect of sustainable development and that the Commission will seek to monitor how the country's wildlife can be protected.
I do believe in conservation rather than preservation, personally, meaning that there can be utilization of wildlife, but it needs to be controlled. There needs to be scientific information on what we can and cannot utilize, whether by export or for the wild meat trade or the plant trade for that matter. And so the role of the Commission in that regard would be to look at controlling the wildlife trade, taking into consideration sustainability of our wildlife populations.
Chairperson of the Environmental Protection Agency, Mr. Patrick Williams, pledged to ensure that the decisions made by the agency will align with the President's vision.
The environment is becoming very important. It has always been important and is becoming more and more important. And we believe that given our geographic location and the kinds of issues that confront us, we need to also take seriously issues that relate to climate change, issues that relate to sea level rise, and we also need to ensure that our human population is in sync with what we are trying to do. So part of our mandate also would be to try to educate the public and the various sectors of society so that they become fully aware and educated about the issues, so that they become partners with us and the government to ensure that we achieve what is set out for the future development of this country. That is the establishment of a green state.
Chairperson of the Environmental Assessment Board, Mr. Garvin Cummings, said that he is honored to be part of the process of protecting Guyana's environment.
Becoming a green state is ideal, and is something that personally I would support. I think in terms of environmental preservation, we also have to do that, but not curtailing our national development. So you have to be able to establish a balance between development, between exploiting our natural resources, while at the same time ensuring the protection of our environment. So I think our role as well is essential in that respect, to ensure that as we move forward, that the environment is protected, but at the same time we're not curtailing national development.
From the establishment of the Department of the Environment to the development of the framework for the Green State Development Strategy to the strengthening of bilateral relations to ensure climate financing partnerships, government continues to put several steps in place to ensure the advancement of Guyana's green agenda. These and other steps are just the beginning in a holistic plan to ensure that Guyana's future is secured as a state which is able to protect its environment, combat the adverse effects of climate change, while still ensuring the sustainable development of the country. In his New Year message to the people of Guyana, the President said that the year 2017 will see government moving purposefully along the path toward the establishment of a green state. The plan, he said, would involve the use of renewable energy resources and less dependence on fossil fuels, the promotion of the protection of our natural environment by the conservation of our fauna and flora, economic diversification, and other initiatives.
The establishment of a green state will reduce the impact of the economic and environmental shocks which have retarded our development. The green state will reduce our country's carbon footprint. The green state will diversify our economic base and promote increased value-added production. The green state will demand that we strengthen our efforts in science and technology education and quicken the adoption of information and communications technology. ICT will facilitate greater connectivity between the coastline and hinterland. It will stimulate the services sector. It will improve the delivery of public services and enhance the competitiveness of our economy. Guyanese, we belong to a beautiful, blissful, bountiful country that possesses abundant natural resources. We must care these resources. We must conserve their use for the benefit of present and future generations.
Guyana's Green Agenda is a vision of President Granger aimed at ensuring that Guyana is a country built on environmental sustainability while balancing its economic development in a manner that ensures the protection of Guyana's national patrimony and promoting economic advancement. Government will continue to seek opportunities that will see Guyana becoming a green state where all Guyanese can reap the benefits. This is Jasmine Payne. Thank you for joining us.